Resolution Plus today, I said, upconverts SD to full HD. But in the future, it will have other purposes. For instance, the future of very large screen, 55-inch, 65-inch, is not 1080p. The future of very large screen, it's still going forward. I'm going backwards. There we go. The future of very large screen. The future of very large screen is actually 4K by 2K, which I would show you if I could. There it is. It was actually 4K by 2K. What does this mean? Well, today we have 1920 by 1080p, 2K by 1K. But in the future, you're going to have 3840 or more by 2160, 4K by 2K. Twice the resolution in both directions, 4 times the pixel density. But what's the issue here? The issue here is there is no 4K by 2K broadcast. There is no disk media in 4K by 2K. That means all of these TVs will have to upconvert 1080 content to 4K by 2K. And Resolution Plus does that without artifacting. And no one else has this yet, this ability yet. And we are ahead of the competition. We will do this best, and we will show this to you in our booth this week at CES. So the first series is going to be the XV series, or first series of Regza is going to be the XV series. And it's going to use a bottom deep lagoon design with invisible speakers. So what is deep lagoon design? This is interactive now. I want everybody to close your eyes. I'm watching. Close your eyes. Now you have to imagine you're on a beautiful beach in the Caribbean. And you're standing at the water's edge. Beautiful, close your eyes. Beautiful white sand. Beautiful clear water, and you can see the surface of the water, and you can see through it to the sand below. Right? Okay, open your eyes. This is deep lagoon. Deep lagoon means that you can see the surface of the TV bezel, but you can also see through it to what's below. And what's below will fade off as the sand fades off into the deeper water to give you a feeling of depth where there's really not depth. And this gradation, as I said before, what's going to be happening? This type of gradation is going to be the design identity for Regza. All Regzas will use deep lagoon, but they will use it in a slightly different way. So the first series, XV series, will look like this. All right, they're working again. So you can't see it from back there, but in this one, the bottom utilizes a deep lagoon process, and the sides and the top don't. So it's a bottom deep lagoon with invisible speakers. Very clean design. And when you get now to this series, you add other features, not just the heart and soul of Regza, but more. You add auto view. Now what is auto view? Auto view adjusts basically almost all of the picture parameters for you. It's a combination of an incoming video sensor, it's the signal sensor, plus an ambient room light sensor. And based on the signal and based on the amount of room light, it adjusts your brightness, your contrast, your gamma, your sharpness, your color. Not just your brightness, because if it just took brightness up and down, it would wash out your picture, it wouldn't look good. It adjusts all these different parameters so that in a bright day, you have a bright enough picture, but at nighttime, you're not having eye strain from too bright of a picture. But we decided there was one more thing it needed to do. So for 2009, we're going to add color temperature control. Because you might have fluorescent light, or you might have incandescent light, and that light is going to change how you perceive color on that screen. So once you tell the TV what type you have, as the light goes up and down, it's going to either adjust or not have to adjust for that type of light that you have in your room. So in addition to the amount of color, it's going to adjust for the type of color. You don't have to use this, but it's going to make your life easier and adjust everything perfectly for you, auto view. We're also going to add Instaport for faster HDMI switching. So if you're familiar with HDMI, it uses HDCP copy protection. It means the source device and display device have to talk to each other. They have to have a handshake. Are you a trusted device? Are you a trusted device? And once they say yes, then they send video. But this can take 5, 6, 7 seconds to do. So what Instaport does is as soon as you turn the TV on, it goes out and handshakes all connected devices. It doesn't have to do that when you try to get to that input. This way you have almost instantaneous switching from input to input. So the XV640 size series looks like this. Here's where you step to Regza quality. You step to Pixel Pure, Resolution Plus, Auto View. You step to our clear frame, 120 hertz. You step to Instaport. You step to the bottom Deep Lagoon design with invisible speakers, available in 40-inch, 46-inch, and 52-inch screen sizes. From here, we step to the ZV series. ZV series is going to use what we call a full deep lagoon design with invisible speakers. That means that deep lagoon process is not just on the bottom, it's on the bottom, the sides, and the top, all the way around deep lagoon, and it looks like this. Hey, now we're working. So all the way around deep lagoon design, and when you come to our booth, you'll see it up close. And one of the main features when you step to ZV series is ClearScan 240. So what is ClearScan 240? Well, first, our broadcast is 60 hertz, 60 frames per second, right? And also an LCD TV is what's called a hold type display. That means the frame comes up and it doesn't scan. It stays there until the next frame comes up and is immediately replaced by that frame. And because of the way human eyes work, and there's something called persistence of vision, if something, an object moves inside that frame and it's here and then the next frame is here, we perceive blur, right? So the next thing that we did as an industry is we went to 120 hertz. We created 60 additional frames from the original 60 frames, made 120 frames. Now the objects move less. They move less, we perceive less blur. It's definite improvement. And it's becoming almost standard in very large screen sizes. But we have to take the next step. So what's the next step? Well, the next step for us is we're going to add something called backlight scanning. And we're going to scan or blink the backlight so that you perceive 2 frames for every actual frame of video. And by doing that, you get what we call a 240 hertz effect. Right? And this word hertz in our industry, it's being thrown around in a lot of different ways these days, as are contrast ratios and everything else. So there are brands, and I'm not naming anyone, that might have 60 frames or 120 frames. It might say 240 hertz, 480 hertz, 600 hertz. We're going to say 240 hertz effect, because there are 120 frames, but you get the effect of 240 frames without having to create those frames, have 75% created frames, and risk artifacting. And we think this is a very key technology for us, ClearScan 240. Next thing we looked at was sound. What should we do about TV sound? Should we add a surround sound system? No, people don't want that. If they want surround sound, they're going to buy a surround sound system. So we said, what is the biggest complaint about TV sound? And what we heard was inconsistent volume levels. That when they go from one station to another, the volume goes up or it goes down. When they go to a commercial and the ShamWow guy comes on, it goes way up. So how do we fix that? Well, there are a lot of things out there, basic attenuators, but really they don't work well. First of all, an attenuator doesn't do anything if the sound gets lower, right? And an attenuator also ruins the sound quality because it kind of cuts off the top of the sound. So what did we do? Well, we went to Dolby, and we're going to incorporate their Dolby Volume. In fact, we're going to be the first to incorporate their Dolby Volume in a TV. And what makes Dolby Volume different is, number one, you set the sound level. If the station is louder, it brings it down. If the station is lower, it brings it up. So you have a consistent sound level. It also keeps the original sound dynamics. And what do I mean? I mean a certain mix of bass and treble that we hear. Well, you might think that's easy. You might think you set a sound curve like on an equalizer and just take that same curve up and down, but it doesn't work that way. Our ears don't hear that way. Our ears hear different amounts of bass and treble at different volume levels. It's called psychoacoustics, right? So this system knows that. It knows how we hear. It actually adjusts the sound curve so that we perceive the same amount of bass and treble at every volume. Very sophisticated. And it also is frequency and channel independent. So if there's an explosion over here and whispering over here, it doesn't crush the whispering to bring down the explosion. This really works. And I think it's going to save my marriage. So Dolby Volume. Next is expert mode. Expert mode is for the installer, this professional installer. What we're going to do is we're going to have a separate setting in there for the experts. And what they can do is they can adjust the RGB gain, the RGB offset, and even special backlight adjustment, so that if you access the auto view, you can decide what kind of increments that that backlight is going to adjust. And you can lock that into expert mode, and that's one of the modes you can choose, sports or movie or expert.